It's just like in that song, sounds like more passion, more energy,
Yeah,
more
yeah, yeah,
motivation.
exactly. Yeah, it's just like, oh, yeah, I like that.
Hi everyone, my name is Jack Ananchenko. I'm CTO of Stellarsoft. Today I'm joined by Laura McCann, founder and CEO of Auratherapy, a vertically integrated wellness brand blending fragrance, energy, and intention. Laura, welcome and great to have you here.
Hi, Jack. Thanks. It sounds so much better with your accent. It
Oh, it does. Okay, thank you
sounds
so
great. Yeah,
much.
usually, like the British accent, but this is even more exotic. So thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Cool. Cool. To start this off, and just so the visitors and the audience can know a little bit more about you and like Aura in general, can you probably start this off with with your inspiration? What inspired you
Mm,
start Aura Therapy? How did it
yeah.
grow into what it is today?
Yeah, so it's definitely, as an entrepreneur, everything starts with my story. And my story was I was a many year entrepreneur who had burnt myself out and was experiencing health issues. And as I was exploring different paths to healing outside of medicine, I was getting a little more comfortable with the idea of energy work. And one of the modalities that I found was breath work, which really helped me get into my body and into state. I'm not a great meditator. A lot of people, entrepreneurs especially, are like meditation. I'm way too like active in my mind to slow down to meditate. But breath became a way for me to anchor into my body and to shift how I felt. And when I discovered aromatherapy, which is the use of essential oils and natural scents that are derived from plants and seeds, this was really like adding something to my breath that made me take the right breath. And so I really fell in love with the modality. And as I explored the industry as the entrepreneur that I am, I noticed that nobody had really developed a unique aromatherapy business that was like a brand, a brand that you would recognize. So I found that to be like a blue ocean opportunity, and there are not many of them. I've been in, branding and consumer products my whole career. And so I was like, this is a big enough opportunity for me to want to figure out how to solve it. So I merged, something that was a pain point into something that was an opportunity.
Oh, awesome. Sounds like a cool start. Did it start with the exact product, or was it more of a testing procedures in the very beginning? Like,
Yeah,
can you
great
tell us a
question.
little bit more about
Yeah.
that?
So we started with a line of scents, but the packaging, the price point, everything was totally, let's say, unrealized. And so the exploration really was how to, build it into something somebody wanted and also figure out the customer pain point, the marketing. So it's been a very iterative process. I'd say right now I probably am in my closest to completion iteration, having not only found like what it should look like, the price point, the market fit, but then also my top of funnel to move the product and to get the product into the right hands. So it's definitely been a journey. It's not a one and done. I think when you're in categories that are innovative and new, there's no real playbook or blueprint, and you have to figure it out. And the only way to do that is test and deploy and retest. And, it's like a refinement over and over again.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm assuming that there have been a lot of iterations of these
Yeah,
refinements throughout the
yeah.
whole journey.
The scents themselves have stayed very close to what they were, but getting people to understand what they are, why they want them, that is where all the exploration has been. Packaging has been an evolution, but that's been a lot more fluid and fun because my background is in design and product
Oh,
development. But figuring out how to be a retailer, a wholesaler, and an online business, so an omni-channel vertical brand, that is definitely the stuff that keeps CEOs up at night.
Oh, okay, cool. And
Yeah,
in terms of the packaging, I saw that there are like different shapes. Like
yeah.
there is a standard like wording over there. Like, how long did it take you to get to the current point?
Yeah. So, my background was fashion. And so I've always been a designer at heart, and I've learned how to source and
Mm-hmm.
develop products. So, obviously, bottles and boxes are very different than clothing, in some ways
Mm-hmm.
easier. But once I was able to understand how to find the right partners and source where these products are made, then it was more of a design and iterative design. And so we really have some great packaging, the bottles, the boxes, the colors. We just launched a new brand with a new form and packaging, and that part's really exciting. And because my background is in sourcing, I also know how to do that and get the right price point so we can have the right kinds of margins, because it's wonderful to have beautiful things, but if the price point's too high or you can't sell them, that's an issue. So really it's a lot of things, that part, and then we make everything ourselves. So we fill all the bottles, we blend all the oils, we control you know the whole process, and then of course distribution.
So is this the product going in reference and kind of like in parallel with what you spoke about with Bohdan on the last call? I think he mentioned to me that you launched a brand new collection for a different audience,
Yeah,
demographic audience.
yeah, yeah.
Is it what you're referring to?
Yeah. It's called Moodsy. So the website is Hello Moodsy, and we
Hello, it's okay.
created like a really cool shaped. It's a pill-shaped bottle, really
Mm-hmm.
great packaging, and it's more Gen Z focused, and it's more talking about single note essential oils. So just peppermint, just lavender, just patchouli.
Oh.
Whereas in our other brand, Auratherapy, we talk more about chakras and aura, which is a little bit more niche, but they all go together. Aromatherapy is all those things. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And like, how was that? Did you have any challenges, like learning more about Gen Z and like
Oh,
how they
wow. Yeah.
work? Maybe like any suggestions, recommendations for the audience
Yeah.
out
So
of
I
that?
just came back from a conference called Face Value, and it was a conference that was put on by a company that does focus groups. It was in Austin. It was a couple of weeks ago, and it was literally like the most fascinating thing I've done, because when I developed my other products, I didn't have the money or the time to do a focus group. So the focus group became experience, and when we opened a store, I was able to kind of be creating in my own store focus group. But with a brand new line and this new demographic, which is much younger than our core demographic, I don't know much about it. I think I know. So we spent about 2 days with about 20 young women that were all Gen Z, so 20 to 25, 26. And we had opportunities to interview them on what they buy and how they buy. And they showed us all the products that they actually use. So they brought the products with them. So it was like almost like an archaeological experience, like very anthropological. Like, why do you buy it? And what do you like? And what price point? And where do you shop? And then we also had a room where we set up our entire collection. And then we had a person who asked questions, and we let them shop, and we let them then answer the questions about why they did what they did, what they liked, why they picked it. Oh my gosh, it was so fascinating. I learned a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Any like
Yeah,
shifts,
I guess the
like
big
major
takeaway,
shifts?
yeah, the big takeaway, which was so important, is I think we all focus on advertising and meta and building out all this content, whether it's UGC or just ads. And we got to watch about 4 or 5 of these young women scroll on their phones. And if they see an ad, they go and they swipe away so fast. So they do not look at ads. They hate ads. They don't trust brands. They don't want to click on your ads. They don't click on your links. They are very positioned against a lot of the things that we're doing in marketing. They've been over marketed to. So the solution is you have to find new ways to get in touch with them. And micro influencers seem to be the best way, although that's also risky because they also don't trust anybody who's doing a paid sponsorship. So the truth is I think we are going to have to really figure out like the best way to market to this demographic, and it isn't anything anybody said is true. I don't believe a word of it that it's going to be Meta ads and Google ads, and that's why that stuff's broken and it costs so much, is because it's just not delivering. Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah, gotcha. And like if we were to talk about paid ads in general for you for the business, like maybe not for this demographic, but in general, does it work for you at all? Like, or what is the best
Yeah,
channel for you to
we've
reach people?
experimented. Yeah, we've experimented for the last 3 years. Every time I say I'm not doing it again, I try one more time. And every year that goes by, there's a whole different why it's different. So, oh, it was COVID, then it was the, Apple change, then it was blah, blah, blah. Now it's AI. So the truth is it's a very hard thing to figure out. You need massive budgets. And I don't think anybody really knows exactly anymore because it changes so fast. And it's very much, they say it's creative, but it's very technical. You can't have one without the other, and technical will tell you it's the creative will tell you it's the technical, and I honestly think it's a big, you have to try it, hope maybe it works, but if it doesn't, I think it's like, how do you incorporate it just to create some traffic, but I think the ROI just isn't there in the long run. It's very hard, especially small brands that aren't spending, 100,000 a month or something, right? If you're spending small amounts, I don't even know if the algorithm rewards you or not.
Oh, right. Okay. And
Yeah.
do you differentiate these by the kind of like by the sides of the business, like retail, B2B, B2C?
Yeah,
Like
we
kind of
have
like
to
a
figure out, we have to figure out the customer journey. So primarily, we started trying to drive traffic to the website, but because on our website you can book an aura reading and it's a service, we then started driving traffic to the aura readings, and that actually worked way better than trying to sell products online. But it's a very different journey because it's like selling a spa service or something, right? Like they're booking. So that's wonderful. You're seeing the bookings. Great. You bring them to the store, they come in the store, they buy product because we have a scent-based product, so they need to smell it and see it and learn what it does. So that's been probably better than just trying to sell a product online. Yeah. Selling products that nobody can smell, that they haven't seen, and that aren't like in a big retailer, they have to trust what it is, and it's a little bit of a more complicated relationship to just get them to buy a product that they've seen somebody else use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that the side here is more of a supplementary side of things rather than like the main source of leads and buy like
Yeah.
purchases?
Yeah. For us, we are retail first. So most of our customers we get through the stores, and the stores are the better acquisition point, and the margins and the customer acquisition metrics are much better too. Obviously, the cost is different because you have rent and you have people, right? But we have such great margins that are designed for online that in a store of our own, the margins are phenomenal. And so it makes being a retailer much more exciting than being an online retailer.
Gotcha. Okay, but yet you still try to maintain that kind of like
Yeah, you have to do it
effect.
all. I don't think you can not be omni-channel today. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. How about
Yeah.
B2B online? How does it work for you?
So we do B2B, but not online. The
Oh, okay.
niches that we market to, which is primarily the spa industry and specialty retail, they don't buy online. And if you want to be online, you can join a marketplace like Fair. They have everything online. Problem is you're in a marketplace that's like the Walmart of wholesale, so nobody finds you and they want you to pay to. It's like being on Amazon. It's like another customer acquisition channel you have to pay for. So yeah.
And I mean, it's still a lot of testing for the to understand the ROI, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. And if you
um,
had like a Shopify site with a paywall that they could go to do wholesale, they don't want to go in and click. They just want to say, I want to reorder this. And then they write an email, and it's like, it's so analog. You'd be shocked. Now, if you're working with a large specialty store, it's going to be EDI. So you got the two extremes, right?
yeah, for sure. And then like basically for people we already like covered that you and mentioned that you have B2B, you have B2C, you have retail. Why keeping it all in house? And you manufacture, as far as I remember, right?
Yeah, we manufacture. Yeah.
So
Um, Good
all of that
question.
in house.
Yeah, I think you keep it in house because so I grew up in the 90s in the fashion industry and grew up with companies like the Limited brands that owned Victoria's Secret, the Limited, Express, Bath and Body, Pink, right? They owned all these brands. All of those brands were private label brands and they had their own, sourcing and manufacturing because the Limited would make everything and that's what they did. So they controlled the whole thing. And I grew up with that and I love that model. And I think that model is a very smart model. And I think certainly brands that understand marketing may have an edge on me because they do that, but they don't have an edge on me on everything after that because I like controlling my supply chain. I like controlling my margins. I like being able to develop products. And then when you're small, you have to be very elastic. You can't be important to anybody when you're little. So if you need to make something and you need 100 or 500, nobody's going to do that unless you buy it all up front. So it's a much better way to do the cash flow. And it's a core capability that I understand. So I built my business to kind of match what I like.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
yeah, it's a competitive differentiation for sure. Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, it still lets you keep costs low, right? When you manufacture yourself
correct.
and you
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
define the price.
Yes, exactly.
And it's all manufactured in the US, right? So you do not
Yes.
really do it overseas.
Yeah, we buy bottles and boxes overseas and bring them in. So like a lot of people, the tariffs, that was a little tricky. But things are getting better every day and we got ahead of it. So we had plenty of inventory before, so we didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, we blend everything and bottle everything in our own factory in Asheville, North Carolina. So quality control and then control over the entire process. And we also do our own shipping. So, everything you do adds up. And it's amazing how many brands have to ship things 10 times, and that's included in the cost. I think the shipping companies make more money than all the brands because that really costs the most. If you add all the shipping back onto the cost of the product, I don't know how anybody makes any money.
So do you operate only within North Carolina, or is it basically across the US?
No, we sell all over the US.
All over the US? And
Yeah.
shipping like yourself, what does it mean? What does it actually imply in your
Yeah.
business?
So we don't use a 3PL. We take all the orders and we process them in our own factory, which means that we're not being charged by the unit. You can add what you want in the box, branding, a postcard, a sample. And then it also allows you to control the experience. What does it look like? And so we do all of that because it's part of the whole omni-channel perspective that I have as a brand owner.
Cool. And to wrap it up on the present side of things, so retail-wise, do you only have stores and kind of like shops in North Carolina, or also
No. We're in Miami. So we started in North Carolina, which is where we were, and it's a very touristy area, very upscale resort type of area, and the store did very well. People come for the weekend and they get an aura reading and they buy products and then they tell their friends. And so we then decided to open a store in Miami. So we're celebrating about a year in Miami now. Very different market. Yeah, big store in Wynwood, which is a very trendy neighborhood. And, our neighbors are big brands, whereas in Asheville, it's all very boutique-y. And it was very important because we learned a different part of that, like what's that like being on a main street or in a trendy neighborhood versus in, more of like a localized, location. And I think the next step for us is to open more stores and maybe experiment with malls. Although I love specialty stores, but malls have their benefits. And so we're going to see if the brand maybe has some opportunity in a mall setting, which is another different animal for retail, right? Especially in America. Have you been to
Yeah,
America? Have you been to our malls?
yeah,
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Of course, of course,
Yeah.
of course. Well, it's been a while though, but I mean, back in 2016, and I actually got my 10-year visa just a few days ago. So I
Oh,
will soon be in the
congratulations.
US for sure. Thank you so much.
That's
So I'll
great.
soon be in the US again.
Good. Come visit.
Cool.
Come to
Yeah, for
Miami.
sure.
It's warmer there.
I'll give you a nudge. I'll send you the email whenever I plan to
Yes.
go there. Because it's gonna be anyways. It's gonna be a 2 to 3 month visit. Because
Yeah.
whenever you operate mostly in the US, there is no chance that I can go there for a week. It's just like
Yes.
I
You got
gotta
to
go
stay
to the West
longer.
Coast, East
Perfect.
Coast. Like you gotta meet with all of them. And you
Fantastic.
mentioned tariffs, which is a very quick but yet very interesting topic. Because there are lots of businesses that we deal with, and they all kind of maybe not all of them import from China in general, or from the other countries in general. But there are so many countries that were affected by the
Yeah.
tariffs.
Yes.
You mentioned that there was a hit or there was an interesting kind of
Yeah.
period to that. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that
Yeah.
meant and how
So
you resolved that?
we mostly import our products from China, the boxes and the bottles. Unfortunately, glass bottles is not a product that you can get in very many places anymore. So if we could, I would buy it here, but there are very few glass factories, and then printing on the glass and doing all the customization is very hard and expensive. Boxes you can make everywhere, but the prices over there are just phenomenal, and they can make anything. I mean, they're just an incredible culture of manufacturing. So we have, great relationships, great prices. And when the tariffs hit, we actually had just finished bringing in our entire season. And we were lucky that what happened is where I live in Asheville, there was a hurricane, completely crazy. And the entire city where I lived got decimated by this hurricane, including our warehouse that had all of our inventory. So we had this opportunity to start over, and I was going to wait, but when I knew that there was going to be a new government, and I had heard that they were going to maybe make tariffs a thing, I pulled the trigger very early and also negotiated terms that allow you to include the duty up front so you don't get hit when
Okay.
you bring it in. So that made it possible to avoid all those tariffs. And then in the between, as I've added new programs and brought in things that we sold out of, we've taken on some of the duty, but the factories have been really great at reducing some of their prices to kind of get you where you were. So that's an
Okay.
amazing thing that happens when you work in certain countries. They understand where you need to be price wise, and they build it in. But then the tariffs went up and they went down, and then they went up and then they went down, and they're kind of like we had opportunities to get in,
For
under
sure.
when it was right, and then now they're kind of like it looks like it's all back to what it was. So a lot for nothing, but it was definitely, if I were in a different industry where I had to constantly be shifting my production, and it would have been probably not worth getting up in the morning and dealing with any of it. It would be like a death knell to the business. But instead, it's made us more nimble and I think better at what we do because we really understand supply chains and what we need to be able to do what we do. So, yeah.
So proactiveness, would you emphasize proactiveness as one of those traits that helped you basically
Yeah.
help
Well,
with the
first of all, yeah,
logistics?
you have to, you have to be flexible because if you think everything is a doomsday, then you create more doom. Working in a business where energy is a big thing that we do, it's like trying to find the silver lining in everything, and then also spinning. You have to spin it to get what you want. So, if you're like, oh my God, like you're going to get a lot of that. And if you're like, let's figure out the solution, then solutions start to appear. So I think obviously there are things you can't overcome that are in your way, in your path, in all things in life. But you can also be the kind of person when you see a big stone, you go around it, and somebody else is going to figure out how to go through it, under it, over it. Like, that's your mindset.
Yeah, for sure. And like other than logistics and the operations in general that basically are big parts of the business, there is also the team. And
Yes.
I heard that you basically you keep saying that talent is the biggest challenge as well as the biggest opportunity for you at
Yeah.
most of the times. What
I
is
was
your
just,
secret to
yeah,
keeping
yeah.
your team alive?
I was speaking to somebody today about that who's very bright and has built very big companies, and he was mentioning that it is all about the people, and I agree. I always say people are the main ingredient. Um, you know, I've had companies before. I started as an entrepreneur in my early 20s. And so by the time I was like in my 30s, I had a company that had 50 employees. My company now, we have about 12 employees, and I'm in my 60s. So I really wanted to do it differently this time. And part of it is being a little bit more experienced, and also knowing what I like and what I don't like about being a CEO and having to deal with people, because people are your biggest opportunity. They're also your biggest challenge as an entrepreneur, right? Is different ways of thinking about them. And, you know, my goal is that anybody who works in my company has an opportunity to be their best self. And I don't want to do leadership from a fear-based place. I really believe in an empathy-based leadership model, where empathy is something that I can give, but also empathy is something that they can give, which means that we're really being humans instead of trying to build this more hierarchical employer-employee framework, which I don't think works. And especially with the younger generation, I definitely don't think it works, because they're just not trained the same way that older generations are about what the value of work is. And for them, it has to fit what they want and how they want it. And so they're just not going to flex, you know, the same way that somebody who's like, you know, I have to do it to make a living. Well, they're like, I just won't do it. So you have to
Yeah.
find different leverage on the conversation. And really, the conversation is like, what do you do? What are you good at? How can I help you be your best? What can you do for me? And then you kind of build it from there. I'm not going to say it works all the time, but it's definitely feels
I was
better
about to
from
say that.
a heart-centered place, that you're not having to constantly be like, come on, do it, do it, do it, because that doesn't work for me, right? That's just not where I'm at in my life.
Yeah, and you still like you still deal with all of your people, given that it's like 12 of them. I'm assuming that you still deal with them, with all of
I
them
do.
on a
I
day-to-day
mean, I have
basis.
relationships with everybody, although I am building, you know, some people who handle certain stacks of the team. So, you know, I have an operations and sales person. I have somebody who runs the supply chain. You know, I have a person who helps me with events and stores. So, but I still, it's small enough still that you know everybody and you talk to everybody, and you have to care about everybody. They all want you to care about them.
Small team, but the same amount of departments, so it's good. I
Yeah,
mean, all
yeah,
of
you have
sides
to
of the
have all the
business.
departments. Yeah, yeah. The org chart still looks like an org chart, except, you know, you're always in every box on every
Yeah, for
for a
sure.
while. Yeah,
With the amount of businesses that you will already operated,
yeah.
is there any like magic trick or anything that you would like recommend anyone who is watching this to
Mm.
know about the people, about how to deal, about how to interview them, like what to
Oh,
watch, little
yeah,
traits or anything
yeah.
that you would recommend?
So I have a couple of things I like to say. One is, what you see is what you get. People will always tell you everything you need to know. You just have to listen and pay attention. I would say that's the same in every relationship, especially dating and things like that. Like, they show you, there's tell signs about like what's going on. It takes a little time, but what you see is what you get. And then actions speak louder than words. So people will say things and do other things. And so that's another tell sign. But primarily, I think I now know from the work that I do that everybody has energy, and they are kind of the energy that is where they've been and in this moment, and it's informed by their whole life, their trauma, their life, what they're good at, what they like, and that's what you're getting. And a lot of times I think we tend to think that we're dealing with somebody's personality, which feels like something that you get, but isn't who you are. So this is not, you don't choose your energy, you are your energy. And so when you meet somebody and you understand, oh, this person's very analytical, or this person's very cool and calm, or this person maybe has some trauma they're dealing with and everything comes up for them when you talk to them this way, you have more compassion for them and you can be with them in a way that you might need to be to help them get past the whatever. And if not, you just think this person's an idiot, this person's a jerk, this person's not listening, this, like you make it about the personality, and they're stubborn, they're flexible, and it isn't that. It's their energy, and we all respond to different energies differently. So I think that's really helped me a lot,
Gotcha. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
And like, if we were to speak about sales and marketing people like at your company, what are the traits that you would recommend the other businesses to pay attention to when they choose their people to join the team?
Yeah, I think sales and marketing has changed a lot. So I'll just start with sales. I think salespeople, you used to want a hunter, and today it's more like you want a person who's really good with systems and data collection, because sales is a numbers game, and it's very much like you're in the CRM, and it's all about hitting that CRM and the cadence and the discipline. Depending on your business, you may need that like person who's a go-getter, outside person who's going to go close a deal. But the truth is that person needs all the other things underneath them, and they usually aren't the same person who can do that. So sales is tricky that way, right? It depends on your business. So different things you do, maybe a different kind of salesperson. And then marketing, oh my gosh, it's such a broad question, because I think, again, you have your technical people, you have your creative people, you have people that have to have the big picture. And so I'd say that is probably the most complex part of the business, with the most change consistently. It's always changing, because so many things, like look at what happened with AI. Like if you have a marketing team, and with AI, if your marketing team hasn't figured out AI and isn't integrating everything related to AI already, you probably need to fire everybody and start all over in 6 months, or they'll bankrupt you, right? Or they're going to bankrupt you, right? Because they'll be like, oh, AI is going to take my job. So they'll block all the things you can do with AI. But the truth is you got to start automating, and you got to start using these tools, and you start using them to take away all the extra people you needed to do the work. And so, yeah, I'd say marketing is still something I'm figuring out, like what all the personalities are. But creative is a key piece, and somebody who understands enough about seasons of trends and how the world works to understand, like they have to be tapped into what's going on and curious, because there's so much information coming. If they don't want to absorb all that information, then you have to, as the CEO, and I can't read all those marketing blogs and what's happening. So I think it's a very important thing to really understand how to hire in all these roles, and it's changing every day. Yeah.
And that data attribution wise, it sounds like it's been a challenge. Is it?
Always, yeah. I mean, for a small company like ours, we don't have time or bandwidth or expertise to really go back and look at the data. And also, perhaps the data set isn't really that important yet, because we're iterating so much. So somebody coming in and being like, let me just analyze the data, they wouldn't understand that we're still trying so many things all the time. So the data, I'd say the data isn't pure. And a lot of the systems that we use, the data isn't designed for omni-channel. So whether it's your accounting or your Shopify, dashboard, it isn't really giving you data in the way that you need it to really understand what the experiment was and how did it go.
How do you usually handle that? Like, given that data can be tricky, like you can get, you cannot, how do you basically use that data to analyze where the lead's coming from, or what is the ROI of a specific channel?
Yeah,
what is the hardest
tricky
to make sense of?
Yeah, it's tricky. So a lot of it is when it's this size, you still see every order that comes in. You still see, and you're involved in everything. I think there's a point where you can't do that anymore and you're like, you don't know, and then you got to look at the data. So I do think it's a little bit like there's a switch, and the switch is when it's just it goes from being a faucet to a hose. When you're in the faucet phase, you know you can control it. When it's the hose phase, you got to figure out another way. Yeah.
Like scalability wise, is there any like recommendation or like where something from your experience that you would want to share in terms of how to set it up from the very beginning, so that like when you are in the phase where you do not really look into every single order, but rather you look into like large scale data, what would you recommend businesses doing from the very beginning, just so it's easier down the line?
Yeah, I think it all starts with understanding your chart of accounts. So that sounds like a funny thing. So your financials matter, and understanding the money, what you're spending and where it's going. Because let's say if you're just trying to roll up and look at your balance sheet and P&L, and you didn't categorize your spend in marketing in a very different, in a very, micro way, and instead you just have marketing, you're not going to know what your SEO costs, what your ads costs, what your creative costs, what your advertising costs. So you have to build the financials to roll up into the picture you're trying to tell. There's data in those numbers because that's how you know what you spent. You know what you made. And then you have to also do the same thing with your revenue channels. What's coming in from online, what's coming in from wholesale, what's coming in from retail. And then you can kind of look. And then there's these parts of the business that you kind of have to rent out to all the businesses. So my marketing department services all three. What percentage am I allocating to each? None of that is in any report. So you kind of have to know that and then figure out how to recrunch the data to look at the business that way. Then you can really say, this is what's going on. Otherwise, it's very much intuition and experience. I'm not sure data always matters as much as we think. I think what matters is what is happening now and where are you going? And data is looking backwards, and sometimes that's not always going to inform the other things, and it all depends how fast you're going. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any tips that you would like to share in terms of how to keep control of their financials, what they spend on, how to get to always monitor what you actually earn, and how to actually apply it for the next like milestone of your business, just so it's better and better?
When you have money, you probably don't care and look as much. When you're broke and you're figuring out what to pay and who to pay and when, you need to look every day at everything. So I've been all of those things. And so I actually use a cash flow sheet that I've designed. That's my own system. It's just a sheet. And I keep track every week of all the money coming in and all the money going out, because I can't get the financial picture fast enough from my accounting system to be able to make certain decisions. And I always want to know what I have to spend and when, and I need to be able to project and forecast cash flow. And I can't do that in my P&L and balance sheet unless I already have like an accounts payable or an invoice. So that's what I do. It's great discipline, and it really makes you feel comfortable and confident that you know what's going on. The other thing is, if you have Shopify and they want to lend you money, every time you see the amount they want to lend you, if it's bigger, you know you're doing okay. The more money people want to throw at you, the better you're doing, right? Like every day I have 15 texts, people trying to lend me money, and I'm like, it's great. I don't need it. I don't want it. But that's just telling me that, abundance is real.
Yeah, for sure. With lots of these pieces, like tied together in your like size of the business, B2C, B2B, retail, manufacturing, like operations in general, do you have any like things throughout your experience that you can outline as things that most of the leaders, most of the businessmen or startuppers underestimate when they are scaling?
Yeah. Well, I've been an entrepreneur since I'm 28, and I think there's two things. Well, three. Okay, the first thing is capital. No capital, no business. You need money. The money's got to come from somewhere. So either you're raising money, or you're putting your own money in, or you're putting it on credit cards and hoping it all works out, or you have enough revenue coming in that you can keep churning and doing it. No capital, no business. Most people underestimate how much it costs and how little you'll make in the beginning. So that is like the first thing that I find with new entrepreneurs is they think they're all going to get rich, or they think they're going to all raise money, and the truth is it's not quite like that at all. So it is definitely challenging. The other thing is the people in your life. You're going to be working so much and you're going to be so focused on the thing that they may resent it, or they may miss you, or they may ask you like, why are you not paying attention? If you don't have the right support system, you can't do it because you're constantly feeling pulled. And that for women is especially difficult if you're a mother or having a young family. I think fathers today are also like that because they want to be very involved with the family. It's very hard to have your attention always have to go to the business.
Yeah.
And then I'd say the third thing is your own mental health. If you have any trauma, any triggers, anything that's around like not feeling enough, it may be what drives you to be this ambitious. It'll kill you also because it's where you're going to have all the demons come in when it's not working out. So this is a great opportunity if you want to work on yourself. You have to constantly be doing the work as an entrepreneur of making sure your thoughts don't become reality and you're having the right thoughts, because if you have the wrong ones, you create realities you don't want, and then you have to fix that, and that takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. So this is a relationship with yourself that feels different than maybe a relationship with a partner or a spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, because it's only you with you and you're fighting with yourself all the time. How will you get past yourself to create the thing you say you want? That is the work of being an entrepreneur. And so it makes it worthwhile, but it also makes it challenging if you think it's something else. It's definitely not just about selling products and having a business and making money.
It's just like in that song, sounds like more passion, more energy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like, oh, yeah, I like that. Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
You'll have to
sounds
put
good.
that in the soundtrack of the podcast. Yeah.
I will do, for sure. I will do. It will be the start of it, like the
Passion,
little
passion.
intro.
I have a
Passion,
product called
energy.
Passion. I'll have to send it to you.
Sounds good. Cool.
Perfect.
Send me the link. I'll check it out for sure.
Perfect. Yes.
Uh, and I guess to wrap it up, kind of like for this meeting, if we were to chat and if we chat again next year, what would you love for your business to have accomplished?
That's such a great question because it is the end of the year and I'm very much focused on like what my Q1 is going to look like and then also beyond. And I'd say that I have certain goals that are revenue goals, and I have certain projects, things I'm testing because I'm always testing. This year we're testing events in a big way, trying to see if we move our marketing dollars to our own events, if we can actually capture a better top of the funnel than all the other digital expenses that we have, and go back into the real world instead of trying to do so much online. And I'm looking to see if that correlates to all of the things I need in all the online things. I've been doing it kind of the other way around, testing online to see if it correlates to bringing people into the real world. So that is the big experiment this year. The other thing is it's very clear that for brands like my own, gifting is a big thing. You know, you have to give away things. You read about all these brands that have grown to $1 billion, like Alo Yoga, I don't know, you name it, and they tell you they're spending all this money marketing and giving things away. And so that's a big investment. And so how to do that in a way that will create, again, engagement, adoption, CAC, lifetime value, all that. That's the other experiment. So I'm working on things I can make and gift and give away that still cost less than running an ad. And so that's another experiment that I'm running in the background. Yeah.
Awesome. I would love to learn the results of this experience because I
Yeah.
mean, there is a lot to it. You gotta save information about those customers who took those giveaways. A lot
Yeah.
a lot to upsell, etc., etc. I mean, it's not that easy as it
No,
sounds.
yeah,
So
everything is like, it's kind of like knitting, right? Like you can make the plain sweater, or you can start to add fancy stitches, and you're still using the same 2 needles and the same yarn, but different, and you get something completely different. And so that's the experiment: is how do you put the time, the money, the ideas, and get a new result that looks different, and like which one is the one that's gonna help you with, that growth, because you're always looking for some kind of growth, right?
Cool. I wish you all the best in next year with all of this.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Laura, this has been inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing all your lessons, more about your journey. Everyone who is listening, you can check out Laura's website at aromatherapylife.com, if I'm correct.
Auratherapylife.com, yes.
Life.com. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for being here. This was great to talk to you.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.